Things about to change, it's evolution. Voices shake the ground, you feel it moving. With the revolution. With the ground beneath your feet, with a whisper in the trees. Do you feel us watching? Hunger in our eyes, victories on our minds. It's our time to rise. Can you hear the sound? Can't stop us now. We're not back in town, know what we're doing. Things are about to change, it's evolution. Voices shake the ground, you feel it moving. With the revolution. We're not back in town, know what we're doing. Things are about to change, it's evolution. Voices shake the ground, you feel it moving. With the revolution. Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to leave this out.
Hello there.
Got this far, don't know how. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we're gonna let it rain. Tonight, we're gonna let it rain. Tonight, we're gonna let it rain. Just like the sunrise, we're gonna let it rain. Just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop, can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt. No, we can't turn back now. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we're gonna let it rain. Tonight, we're gonna let it rain. Tonight, we're gonna let it rain. Just like the sunrise, we're gonna let it rain.
Good evening and welcome everybody. This is Obi-Wan Pez for and Simplex Pachinko. We are going to be doing some math tonight. Currently checking out psychometric evaluation of the mathematical well-being for scale for children age 9 to 14. So we're going to check the open access version of this article on Springer, Mathematics Education Research Journal. And anybody who wants to follow along, got the link here. Okay. So, hope everybody's doing alright. Mostly had a pretty fun week. Ended up doing our non-D&D campaign. And finally, the players got to the main big city that I was kind of planning on them getting to at least 2 sessions ago. But they're faffing about, if you will. So things have gone fairly slowly overall, but they're taking their time and they're having a lot of fun. So you know what? I can't complain. One of our guys is going to be leaving in a couple of weeks, so I kind of want to get him into stable position and let him figure out what's going to happen to his character. But it's good times. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so this is by Ty Campbell, Sindura Kularajan, and Sandra Miles. Abstract. Despite the importance of students' overall well-being in mathematics, empirical research in mathematics education has historically focused on specific outcomes related to well-being, e.g. attitudes, emotions, beliefs. Recent line of inquiry in mathematics education has begun to explore students' overall well-being in mathematics via the construct of the mathematical well-being, MWB. Yet, there are limited, child-friendly, validated instruments that classroom teachers and researchers can use to measure MWB in young students. This study examines the development and validation of the well-being scale, a brief, easy-to-use 7-item summary that will measure children's subjective well-being in mathematics. The scale was piloted with 155 students aged 9 to 14 and subsequently administered to an additional 253 students aged 9 to 14 with demographic diversity in the USA. 6 psychometric properties were evaluated, including content validity, face validity, structural validity, construct validity, and internal consistency and measurement invariance. The psychometric analysis suggests that the well-being instrument is an appropriate summary measure of subjective well-being in mathematics for students aged 9 to 14 in the U.S. Very highly qualified there. Make sure that you understand that this is not ever to be just broadly administered to everybody and said, yes, absolutely, this is a good measure of mathematical well-being without putting all of those little caveats in. And if you are doing some sort of study like this, you need to contact your review board. So this is the whatever ethical review board you have, ERB, I think, for your particular institution. So you have to make sure that that paperwork is filled out, otherwise you could open yourself up to all sorts of fun stuff. So don't do that. Make sure you contact your ethics board and discuss what exactly it is you want to do if your research involves any other human beings whatsoever who are not 100% already in the study. Right, if they are not co-authors, you need to definitely contact the ERB. The instrument offers an alternative to existing measures for researchers, teachers, and policymakers who need a brief measure for mathematical well-being. Policy and curriculum documents worldwide acknowledge the importance of supporting K-12 students in developing positive well-being in mathematics. Many. For instance, South Korea's Ministry of Education highlighted the need for students to enjoy mathematics and develop positive attitudes. Similarly, a UK report underscored the critical role of positive attitudes and dispositions in the students' mathematical learning. Historically, research in mathematics education is focused on specific outcomes such as mathematics attitudes, emotions, dispositions, beliefs, and anxiety. However, to understand well-being in mathematics more broadly, the field needs broader constructs and measures for considering students' overall well-being in mathematics. Recent research, primarily from Australasian regions, has introduced the concept of mathematical well-being to explore students' overall well-being in mathematics. It is a unifying framework that is composed of 7 components, all of which join to explain students' subjective experiences of feeling good and functioning well while doing mathematics. The 7 components are accomplishment, cognitions, engagement, meaning, perseverance, positive emotions, and relationships. Each of the 7 components is tailored to students' experiences in mathematics, with optimal well-being achieved when students feel fulfilled across 7 components. I would actually be interested to try this in 2 of my, pre-calc or calc 1 classes, where we do one as kind of standard lecture type stuff, and one as the building thinking classroom stuff, and then see how they differ, if they differ. As empirical research on mathematical well-being has started to mount, there is a need to develop appropriate and easy-to-use instrumentation for teachers and researchers to measure well-being in school-age children. Though there has been some work in this area, present study addresses the need for child-friendly, short-scale to measure the well-being in children, enhancing current instrumentation. Short scales or surveys that contain fewer than 10 items are especially desirable for young students who have low attention spans, because short scales may decrease the likelihood of careless responses and/or survey abandonment. Additional advantages of short scales include providing a summary measure of a construct rather than fragmenting the construct into separate factors. Sorry, just checking where we're at. Okay. I think it's just my headset that's a little loud. Additional advantages of short scales include providing a summary measure of a construct rather than fragmenting. Right, we already did that. Requiring less time and resources to administer, and being suitable for administration alongside other surveys. An additional contribution of the scale presented in the present study is the use of emojis, which can help overcome language barriers and increase attentive engagement among young respondents without loss of reliability or validity, in theory. For all such reasons, a short scale measuring mathematical well-being in children would greatly benefit classroom teachers and researchers. In this paper, we contribute to prior literature by developing validating a child-friendly short scale, 7 items, for measuring mathematical well-being in children aged 9 to 14. Research questions guiding the study were: what design principles guide the development of the mathematical well-being scale? And what are the psychometric properties of the mathematical well-being scale? In what follows, we start by briefly discussing how MWB emerged as a construct from mathematics-related affect literature. Then describe the MWB framework and describe the process for developing the scale and evaluating its psychometric properties. Right. Mathematical well-being was predated by research on mathematics-related affect, which served to explore students' affective experiences in mathematics. Mathematics-related affect generally refers to the non-cognitive aspects of mathematical thinking. Under the larger umbrella of mathematics-related affect, researchers have focused on specific constructs. Alright, we did this, etc., etc. Same is true for mathematics anxiety, right? The construct has taken on new and diverse meanings since the 1970s. See, I skipped too many sentences. Research on mathematical attitudes dates to the 1970s, and since then, the construct has taken on new and diverse meanings. Same is true for mathematics anxiety, which dates to the 1950s. Thus, the research on students' affective relationship with mathematics is deep and has been well studied over multiple generations at this point. So we are in the 2020s. It has been roughly 50 to 70 years since we have been starting this research. One major reason for the emergence of mathematical well-being was its ability to connect affective, social, and cognitive strands into a unifying framework to capture students' overall well-being in mathematics. Rather than focusing on a single affective domain, MWB framework draws together several distinct constructs defined broadly to explore students' well-being in mathematics. Another advantage is that it draws principally from contemporary models of general well-being and applies them to mathematics education, thus providing a unique and nuanced lens for understanding how students develop positive experiences in the mathematics classroom. In the next section, we describe mathematical well-being as a construct and review its empirical base. Grounded in contemporary philosophical, sociological, and psychological literature on human well-being. First, it is important to consider the broader construct of human well-being. We'll explore it as a subjective or objective construct. Subjective well-being refers to individuals' perspectives of their own well-being, whereas objective well-being refers to assessing well-being through objective measures such as health or wealth. Because mathematical well-being is subjective, we focus this review on the subjective human well-being. Makes sense. Ryan and Deci, 2001, suggested subjective well-being can be categorized according to two philosophical approaches: hedonism and eudaimonism. Hedonism is the view that well-being is equivalent to happiness. Eudaimonism is derived from Aristotle's eudaimonia, which suggests that well-being consists of much more than simply being happy. Gorski traced the etymology of the Greek term and found that eu means good, daimon means spirit, which suggests that eudaimonia literally means being of good spirit. Thus, well-being from this lens, also termed flourishing by several scholars, refers to living well or living up to one's true potential. Based on these two approaches, well-being can be defined as humans' subjective experiences of feeling good, hedonia, and functioning well, eudaimonia. To operationalize subjective well-being as a measurable construct, scholars have created models that identify the elements necessary for feeling good and functioning well. Two of the most popular models which helped ground the MWB framework are PERMA and EPOCH. PERMA, developed by Seligman, suggests that there are 5 elements that contribute to human well-being: positive emotions, engagement, relationships, meaning, and accomplishment. Seligman suggested that humans experience optimal well-being when each of these values are fulfilled. The EPOCH model, developed by Kern et al., identifies the domains essential for a flourishing life in adolescence. These domains are slightly different for those of adults. engagement, perseverance, optimism, connectedness, and happiness. So, overlapping, we have engagement. Relationships and connectedness can probably have at least some overlap. Happiness is going to be one of the positive emotions. Optimism. And perseverance. Compared to meaning and accomplishment. Okay. Relying on subjective well-being research, the psychological models associated with subjective well-being, along with prior mathematics education research, propose the construct of MWB. They define mathematical well-being as students' subjective experiences of feeling good and functioning well in mathematics, and propose 7 components or ultimate values that promote optimal well-being in mathematics: accomplishment, cognitions, engagement, meaning, perseverance, positive emotions, and relationships. Although arXiv didn't quite work so well. Each of the components are described in Table 1. Framework suggests that the 7 ultimate values need to be fostered within students to promote optimal well-being. As illustrated, the 7 components of MWB are largely drawn from Perma and Epoch and are specifically tailored for mathematics. For instance, positive emotions refers to students experiencing positive feelings such as happiness while doing mathematics. Importantly, the MWB framework considers students' cognitive experiences, cognition, accomplishment, affective experiences, positive emotions, and social experiences, relationships, tying them together under a unifying framework to represent mathematical well-being. Thus, while other related constructs, i.e. mathematical attitudes, offer deep insight into specific aspects of student experience, MWB provides a more comprehensive view of student experience. Hill et al. Confirmed the relevance of the 7 components to students' experiences of well-being in mathematics by conducting a scoping review of mathematics education literature. Further, the MWB framework was validated in a variety of international contexts, indicating that the components are universal, reasonably anyway. They apply consistently across contexts. Full-size table. Don't mind if I do. Hey, we know them. Joe Waller is one of Sunil Singh's friends and colleagues from Canada. Dweck was mentioned a number of times, I believe, in Lily Dahl's work. And also Gaspard, I think. 2015. Alright, accomplishment. Sense of achievement in math. Performing at high levels in math. Cognition. Having a sense of the required skills and knowledge to do well in math. Engagement, a sense of interest and finding pleasure in figuring out math problems. Meaning, finding mathematics a useful and worthwhile... Finding mathematics as useful and worthwhile. Perseverance, striving to do better in math and believing that one can do better in the future. Positive emotions, experiencing positive emotions such as joy and happiness while doing math. Relationship, a sense of comfortability and safety when helping or being helped by others in math. So your mathematical security might also be another way to put it. Though MWB is relatively new, it has received increased attention in empirical research. Scholars have explored students' experiences of it, demographic correlates of it, and interventions that support mathematical well-being. Most MWB research has been conducted in an Australasian context, with no known studies being conducted in the US at time of writing. Because of the rapid emergence of mathematical well-being, there is a need to develop validated instruments. While Hill et al. Have done some work in this area, their instruments are long-form and designed to measure the distinct components of MWB. We believe that because MWB ties several constructs together under a unifying framework, it is prudent to develop a short scale, less than 10 items, with a unidimensional structure that provides insight into students' MWB holistically, rather than parsing their experiences into these separate components. Such a unidimensional structure is consistent with the overarching aim of the research to explore students' subjective experiences of feeling good and functioning well. Further, short scales that use pictorial response options can provide an alternative to the current long-form instruments. Lastly, the present study builds on prior research by offering validated scale in the USA. Prior instruments have been validated in Australasian contexts, underscoring the need for scale validation in other contexts. Thus, this study builds on current research to provide a validated child-friendly measure of MWB in unidimensional structure. Goodness. In this section, we share our method for developing and evaluating the psychometric properties with a short scale to measure MWB in young students, which we call the Mathematical Well-Being Scale. Participants of this study were 408 students, ranged from 9 to 14 in the US. Of these 408 students, 155 participated in pilot, 253 participated in post-pilot. Pilot phase was used for item reduction and assessing factor structure, and post-pilot was used for assessing structural validity and other psychometric properties of the final scale. Participants were recruited through Qualtrics panel, a reliable service for sourcing survey respondents. We collaborated with Qualtrics to use a quota sampling design to recruit a sample of students that mirrored the demographics of the USA population. Quotas were set to ensure the sample mirrored the populations of race, gender, ethnicity found in the U.S. Census Bureau statistics. Though quota sampling is non-probabilistic, it provides an opportunity to recruit a sample of students that reflects the demographics of the larger population. Interesting. I would want all of my students to still take it. And that way we might be able to compare my students to my colleagues' students, who would be a reasonable sample, right? My students would be a reasonable sample of the population at large if all of my colleagues were also doing this. And adding, 5 to 7 questions that, roughly speaking, have, a few. Adding a quick 5 to 7 questions is not onerous in and of itself. Most students, if they're like, oh, this is an actual thing, it's, worth a quiz grade or something like that. Or sometimes I would, for instance, drop a quiz. If we had a bunch of quiz scores and a bunch of homework scores and things like that, we might just end up dropping one of the quiz scores and as a thank you for doing this. Okay. Participants recruited via email and other platforms. Provided incentives for participating, i.e. game rewards. Demographic information for participants in the pilot phase and post-pilot phase is provided in tables 2 and 3 respectively. So you buttered them up and said if you're trying to be honest, we'll give you some like Minecraft skins or Roblox points or something. As shown, the demographics in our sample mirrors those of the larger USA population. Further, sample contains students from 46 out of 50 states. That's also helpful. So, yeah, if I were to do this, it would just be like, again, my classes compared to everybody at my community college. Like, I personally do not have the infrastructure to do all of this, but having contacted Qualtrics panel, they now have the opportunity to get their survey in front of many different people, and people they probably have never met. After being recruited, participants completed Qualtrics survey that we developed at a location of their choice. Parents were first required to complete a consent form, yes. Then the child completed an assent form to verify their consent. All procedures follow the compliance protocols of International Review Board, IRB, not ERB, at Utah State University to mitigate against fraudulent and or careless responses. Qualtrics project manager implemented several safeguards, including relevant ID, service for improving fraud protection, and creating a speed check of 1 minute. All surveys completed in less than 1 minute were not considered. Okay, demographics. Right. Reasonable representation across 9 to 14. Man, you're missing out some 11-year-olds though. Right. Roughly speaking, about what the U.S. is. Right. About what the U.S. is, give or take. Longitudinal, latitudinal coordinates were provided in the dataset, but were not converted to preserve participant privacy. Reasonable. I mean, realistically, right? Like, could report the latitude, longitude coordinates within the nearest tenth or something of a degree, and that's quite a ways off. It would like encircle your town, basically. Not everybody, but still. And post-pilot. Yeah, basically the same. A little bit of a dip in the 11-year-olds, but this has more. 16 and 6, 19, 6, 1-ish, and 5, right? The other one was about 20% Hispanic, and 49-51. Yep. 5-step process to develop and validate MWB scale. In the following sections, we elaborate this 5-step process by combining the analysis and results into one section to improve chronological flow and understanding. So, initial item creation, modification of the FS to create the initial terms. Face and content validity, 14 items. Initial were sent out to elementary teachers and a survey methodologist. These guys are really thorough. Item reduction and assessing factor structure. Scale piloted with sample 155. Content validity. Reduced items were sent to a panel of mathematics education experts. Structural validity and reliability. Scale set to n equals 253. Measurement invariance for age and gender assessed on the final sample 253. To create a short MWB scale, we modified a human well-being scale that was developed by Dina et al. Called the Flourishing Scale, FS. There we go. FS is 8-item survey that measures general human flourishing on a 7-point Likert type scale that ranges from strongly disagree to strongly agree. Pretty standard. FS was a productive starting point for creating our scale for two reasons. FS is short, which aligns with our goal, and FS incorporates items related to perma and epoch of general well-being, which are central to mathematical well-being. Thus, FS offered a productive starting point for adapting well-being items specifically related to mathematics while attending to perma and epoch models on which MWB framework was originally conceptualized. FS has been widely used in research on general well-being with over 5,000 citations, been validated in several countries, including New Zealand, Portugal, and Japan. To modify FS, the authorship team, consisting of 3 mathematics education researchers, met iteratively to discuss item modifications. We modified items with 2 primary criteria: aligning items with the MWB framework, using language appropriate for children 9 to 14, explicitly link the components of the FS and the components of the MWB framework based on their descriptions. Establishing this theoretical linkage ensured that all components of the MWB framework were attended to through the FS. For example, Hill et al. Describe meanings as feeling mathematics is valuable, useful, worthwhile, or has purpose. This description aligns with the well-being component, having a purposeful and meaningful life of the FS. We transform this component to a mathematical context by creating items such as, I believe math is important to my life, and I will use math when I grow up. However, instead of using the terms purposeful and meaningful, we use the terms and phrases that were more accessible to our student population. Moreover, we created more items than we needed to eventually consolidate the items to a smaller scale through piloting and psychometric evaluation. Items from FS provided in Table 4 alongside initially modified items. Place parentheses and italicized text next to each item to show how each item connects to at least one element of MWB. I lead a purposeful and meaningful life. I believe math is important to my life. I will use math when I grow up. My social relationships are supportive and rewarding. If I have a question in math, I feel comfortable asking my teacher, or I know people who would help me. I am engaged and interested in my daily activities. I like to figure out math problems. I think math is interesting. I actively contribute to the happiness and well-being of others. If others have a question in math, I feel like I can help them. I am competent and capable in the activities that are important to me. I am good at math. I'm a good person and live a good life. I have fun doing math. I feel happy when I do math. So positive emotions there. I am optimistic about my future. I think I will always enjoy math. I will continue to get better at math in the future. People respect me. Other people think I'm good at math. Other people listen to me when I share ideas about math. This would be a really good before and after for all of my classes. Oops, no, I don't want that. Hey Don, how's it going? Good evening and welcome. We are currently looking at psychometric evaluation in the mathematical well-being scale for children age 9 to 14. Yeah, we're doing alright. Got my non-D&D party of heroes finally a little bit more on track. They're in the big city, so they're gonna have it was great because so going around the table, I've got a like 80-year-old drunken human with a cybernetic arm. I have a horrifyingly racist orc who's got, I mean, understandably, who's racist against all, like, Saurian. So, I didn't bring the book upstairs. So, the lizard folk races. Across from me, I have a gnome tinkerer who is basically just... He, like, min-maxed his character to be able to heal and to fix things. His name is Fix. I have an Orion, who is the robot in the party, who, like, is an absolute chaos gremlin. And Fix and he were on the police force together in a town, and they have since been suspended. They joined a bunch of criminals in order to escape from jail. They weren't in jail, but they helped these other people escape from jail. And then hilarity ensues. Now they're finally at the, like, big town. And lastly, a beastfolk feline character who is, like, her tail twitches a lot. Let's just say that. Like, she always gets annoyed at the party's antics. We make it into the big town, and they picked up a hitchhiker along the way. Who was a Saurian, by the way? So, that went well. They pick up this hitchhiker, they take her into the big city. She's like, oh yeah, just drop me off at, like, Dragons and Donuts. Right? And they're like, well, I mean, obviously we want to get donuts. And so they all pile out of the car. She leads them in and is like, look, I'll pay for all of you. Thanks, thank you for driving me here. They get out of Dragons and Donuts, and there's a cop writing a ticket. And they start going, what? No, this is not possible. And so the robot character's like, no, wait a second, would I have seen the red line? And I was like, does your character know what it means? It's a local traffic law. Like, you're from somewhere else. He's like, alright, would I have seen it? He rolls like a 10. I'm like, nah, not really. Like, you saw the line, it just doesn't mean anything. And I mean, given that he's an absolute chaos gremlin, he has, on multiple occasions, done stuff like this, where it's just like, I'm just completely ignoring everything and doing a thing because I'm curious. So I was like, I think your character probably just saw the line and was like, it doesn't mean anything. So it's only like half a gold, which is not, the ticket is for half a gold. Which, like, in this world, a solid day's labor is probably about 5 gold. Maybe as low as 2. So they tried to pile into the car and get out of there before she was done with the ticket and put it in the windshield wiper or whatever fantasy setting was. Uh, can you tell I need to decompress? She gets the ticket in there, so they're gonna have to pay it. She takes a picture of him. They drive away. They get like 3 blocks, and then a terror attack happens. three trucks. And I was like, you know, just trace for me what direction you want to go. And like, if they avoided this like central square of just open space, they would have just driven by this event, and it would have happened later when they were like on foot or something. So I was like, you know, we can save this for later. It's not a problem. But they said, I want to go right here, and like drove their finger right through the middle of the square. I'm like, sounds great. So he says, as you get, you know, up near this area, you feel a quick like that the entire car rocks a little bit, and you have like about a tenth of a second to wonder what that was before like the entire square erupts in ball of flame, and the windows on the building just shatter like in a circular pattern out from where this bomb shockwave would have hit it, and then just blown out all the windows. And so the the gnome is like, all right, fuck this town, I hate this place. Let's just get what we're gonna get and get the hell out of here. But they have since found a, I believe it's essentially the equivalent of like a little mom and pop's REI, or as I would have known it, EMS, Eastern Mountain Sports, was like our big franchised like hiking goods store. So they were like, all right, we want this, and like start emptying the shelves into their basket. I'm like, okay. And then the human and orc went off to uh, the forge to get like actual weaponry. So they kind of worked out what they were going to get. And I totally rolled it, but like the guy running the forge was Saurian. I was like, it's the Saurian man. He puts, you know, hangs up the hammer and comes over. Can I help you? And you know, the orc is like, yes, I would like some, and like very polite the whole way through. I was like, fascinating. I'm wondering if he wanted something, and that was why the enmity just sort of like slipped off to the side just a little bit. uh, this is an absolutely insane group of people. I was one of the players when we were playing. What, 6 months to 2 years ago? Um, no, almost 2 years. When I got here and joined this group. Yeah, there's 6 players, and then the GM, who's now back in the States. And this was when I had my character, Impactkultur Kildauer, our draconic, two-handed, draconic, dual-wielding, basically Eskrima-based character, because I was like, I know Eskrima. It is a bonkers campaign. So this is actually Titan's Grave, The Ashes of Volcana, which was the Geek and Sundry show that was produced by Will Wheaton and his son Ryan was one of the writers. And then they had Laura Bailey of Critical Role, Hank Green of the Vlog Brothers, and Hank Green, Yuri Lowenthal of voice acting fame. Final Fantasy VII, he was Johnny in the new one, and he's been in a bunch of stuff that I can't even remember. And Allison Hayslip, who has done a bunch of like hosting gigs, TTRPG adjacent. So that one is still on YouTube. You can find it on the Geek and Sundry channel. And so I'm running that campaign. And these guys, the campaign doesn't really have a beginning or an end. And so like I've spent the last couple of years being like, I want to actually make a beginning and an end. And so I made the beginning back when we were in Maryland. And I ran it with a group of friends who were in Maryland, and it was like, it sort of works. But I'm also 10 years older, so it's a lot of it makes a lot more sense now, and the way that it's structured, I was able to get, I was able to basically ensure that the party all ended up in the same place at the same time. Luckily. I did not, because I rolled terribly, I did not get the bad guys to advance far enough in the police station, because they attacked the police station, to reveal one of the BBEGs, because he would have showed up. He would have like come clanking in full armor and showed himself off, and they would have been like, holy hell. Need to go. And then they all escape. They escape the town, and we're like, okay, so the next step in the campaign is not you are going to like spend the next 5 sessions trying to get from point A to point B. The next thing is, like, you have made it from your location up around these mountains over here to this roadhouse, basically on foot. It's taken you about a month to, like, meander, because you're not just going straight there, you've also got to, find food and get whatever. And we'll just hand wave a bunch of that stuff and say that you all made it to level 2, but in exchange for making it to level 2, we have to fill out some of the campaign. So we talk a bunch about like what their characters got up to and what kind of fun stuff they learned and whatever else. What relationships do they have to all the other party members as like threads to pull on. And like this group did practically none of that, and I was like, everybody was like, I don't know, it doesn't really fit my character, or I can't think of something on the fly like that. And I'm like, all right. And then I opened it up a couple of weeks ago and also asked them a couple more questions, and nobody answered, and I was like, okay. we'll just pass on that. That's fine. Those things don't have to happen. And while we're actually playing the game, the relationships start coming out in that way. So it's a good group. Sometimes a little bit odd, I guess, but most of them are mathematicians, so you know how they can be. Okay. So yeah, this is the 14 questions that were added for the mathematical well-being scale for a group of kids aged 9 to 14 who were used, they were used essentially, in trying to develop this mathematical well-being scale and determine whether it is a reasonable scale to use to try to figure out how students get on with mathematics. So they allowed them to have some sort of incentive in the form of, I believe they said, game rewards. So like, Roblox or Minecraft points or something like that in the stores. Mathematical pedagogy. Be able to suggest papers, books, resources to discuss as a group. Excellent. Do I have any that I've come across that would be especially interesting? So, in terms of actual pedagogy, not so much. A lot of the things that I have seen here have been kind of like this. Like, how do we do assessment? Or how do we do, there was another one. I'm not going to find it. It's fine. Like, how do we do a unit on something? Obviously, I would push building thinking classrooms as a possibility, but I've already done a series on it, so I don't know how everybody feels. I know Zach and I would love to discuss it more at length, I'm sure. If there's anybody else who does go through it themselves and try and look at it. Determine if they want to use it for their own classes. But, yeah, I don't know. And they also looked at this flourishing scale and tried to link the items in the flourishing scale to items in their mathematical well-being scale. So, math communication. Okay. Yeah. So there's going to be, I'm sure that there are plenty of papers here somewhere. I just haven't necessarily found any at the moment. Right. Yeah, this other one that I looked at was diagnostic competence. So like, again, that's the back end of things looking back. Investigating the stages of simplification and mathematization in mathematical modeling processes of middle school students through Fermi problems. So, Fermi problems are the ones that you kind of like come up with a semi-reasonable answer, i.e., are there more doors or doors or windows? Are there more doors or are there more tires in the world? So two things that don't necessarily seem to go together 100%, and can be entirely separate from each other, but what is a good way of figuring something out? How do we estimate things that are completely impossible to figure out? So yeah, that one. Yeah, it is. That one is here. The one that I'm actually working on, if you're interested in that. It's the second one. We'll put this as and we'll discuss many more things over coming weeks and months. We'll see how we get on. Yeah. Like I said, the first one is more pedagogical related. The second one's more evaluation, but never know. Step 2, face and content validity. After creating the initial scale, we assess the face validity and content validity of the initial items. First measure of content validity is evidenced by the fact that the initial items were created by our authorship team, which consists of mathematics education scholars with expertise in social and affective components of learning mathematics. To further establish content and face validity, we sent the survey to an expert on educational well-being, 2 elementary teachers, 1 current, 1 former, and 1 methodologist, asking them to provide item-level feedback on the construct. Each expert provided important feedback and confirmed that the items were relevant and suitable for children. For example, elementary teachers supported us in ensuring the items were relevant and clear for the average child, 9 to 14. Survey methodologists supported us in ensuring the items were conceptually clear. So there was not going to be any ambiguity in terms of like, what is it that I'm actually asking here? And especially for 9 to 14-year-olds. After extensive consultation and deliberation, we had an initial survey of 14 items to use in the pilot study with the intent to shorten after piloting. All items were measured on a 5-point scale from strongly disagree to strongly agree, with emojis attached to each section to make sure that the survey was more child-friendly. Miller and Moore's research showed that 5-point scale with terms strongly disagree to strongly agree had the highest concordance with the gold standard yes-no format for children when compared to other scales, i.e. not like me at all, a lot like me. Further, a growing body of research suggests that using emojis in surveys with younger children may be regarded as good practice because it reduces language barriers and makes surveys more engaging. Pilot for item reduction and assessing factor structure. 14-item survey piloted with 155 children to assess the factor structure in the survey and reduce items to create a short scale. According to Pett et al., 10 to 15 subjects per item is sufficient for factor analysis. In our case, it would be 80 to 120 participants, making n equals 155 an appropriate sample size for factor analysis. Strategy for item reduction was threefold. Retain at least 1 item for each component of mathematical well-being, retain items that were conceptually necessary for each component, and retain items with high factor loadings. First, we use exploratory factor analysis to discern the underlying structure of the 14 items and identify items with the strongest loadings. Because data were non-normal, we ran the EFA using polychoric correlations, I don't know that one, parallel analysis, and SCREE suggested a clear one-factor model. I don't know what SCREE is either. Therefore, we ran a one-factor EFA using principal components extraction with Promax rotation in order to make no distributional assumptions about the data. One-factor structure may be surprising given our description of MWB as being composed of 7 different components, yet it is important to remember that 7 components of MWB are unified under a single construct that considers students' subjective experiences of feeling good and functioning well. One-factor structure can be further explained by the limited number of items we are including in a pilot survey. Recommendations for multi-dimensional factor analysis include having at least 3 items per hypothesized dimension to allow statistical software to identify variation unique to each factor. Given the small number of items and MWB is a unifying construct, one factor structure is reasonable. Okay, with that, we're on ad break, so 3 minutes. Get up, stretch, get your water, cycle it, drink, eat, whatever, and see you back here in 3 minutes. Thanks so much, everybody, for coming.
to protect your soul.
I don't know why I say 3 minutes. It's never 3 minutes. Ad break is 3 minutes. Let's go. Also, right, if you don't already follow Dawn Factorial for some reason, go over there and click on his name and get that going, because Dawn does Dawn does math. Damn. It's going to take a while to get that out of my system. Dawn Does Math was his original channel name, and rebranded to Dawn Factorial, which very fun. But in addition, yeah, Dawn does stuff in the math category, as well as mostly, not exclusively, in the DayZ category. So if you are a DayZ fan, hop on over there and check him out, because there's a lot of wandering the wilderness and trying not to die. And in addition, we also have multiple other friends who are doing mathy type stuff. So we have Slim at the Academy of Useless Ideas, Actual Education, Dr. Gold, Dawn Factorial, Ian Stuckey, who is also currently live, Eat of the Two-Eye Pie, that is Zach, Merriweather Remark, Penn Center, Phobos Dream, Physics and Depression, Talos Teaches, and the Tutor Wizard are all mathy type people. And we also have our other friends who do study groups. So Rendeo, Math Spellbook, Fizzbuzz, Suna OW, and Walking Stick Library. So go check out any of these people if you're interested. I may need to update some of these. I can't remember. One or two people might have decided to stop, but if anybody else out there is doing math or study streams, please get in contact with us, and we'll try and share your links with all of our friends. Check out your content and all that good stuff. For now, let's also, because I brought it up, let's do a quick Eskrima rundown. I did bring up the book here. It's Titan's Grave, Ashes of Volcana, which is a setting for the Fantasy Age game, which recently just released 2 books, both of which are available free and online, but, you know, if you're big into buying the books, you can also definitely get them, which are the Fantasy Age Basic Rulebook 2nd edition, and the Techno Fantasy edition, which is basically what Titan's Grave helped create. So, with the help of Will and Ryan Wheaton, with the help of many other people in the community, the people who were at Titan's Grave decided to, or the people who were at Fantasy Age decided to tap all these people and get their help on creating a more generalized version, so that it's not just the setting of Titan's Grave. It's like, how do you run a techno fantasy? So it has all sorts of really cool stuff in terms of, like, you know, what kinds of weapons are there in this world, what skills can people have, what new classes and races and whatever else are there. Okay, so for Eskrima, we have basic warm-ups. Generally start with, you want to be about 1 inch away from the end of the sticks, and then just simply do 45-degree swipes and kind of loosen up a bit. You want your wrists to loosen up especially, and you want to not hit yourself in the elbow. You also, if you have a cutting edge on this, because these are supposed to be analogs for machetes. So if you have a cutting edge that you have assigned, you want to take that and make sure that that is going forward and down, and then when you return and do it again, you also then want to twist your wrist so that it's also cutting upward as you cut upward. So it's going to be important if you are actually doing this with like an actual machete. I don't recommend it unless you're doing ABS plastic or 3D printed. Wow, okay. And that is why we pay attention, folks. There's all sorts of really cool stuff now. They've got 3D printed versions of these, although they probably will break if you contact them. There's ABS plastic stuff, injection molding, and all sorts of cool items. So, right, then we can also go off the shoulder and cut up and up, cut up and up. And then the one that's much worse, cut down and forward. My wrists revolt. They do not like the second turn here, because they can't go down that way and then return. They tend to go outward and kind of limp through this right here before returning up. I think that I can probably get my wrist to actually do this properly, but it's going to take a long time to condition. And unfortunately, my instructor decided to discontinue eskrima as part of his routine. So we are no longer doing eskrima, but I'll still do it on my own. I just need a book. Alright, so typically covering solar plexus region is really what we're doing. But also, like, this could be used, your left hand could be used in a one-handed style as a parry. So blocking anything that's coming into this area here. You're more or less holding your wrist at a right angle, and it's somewhat uncomfortable, but also my instructor tends to rest his hand in sort of a C shape just on his bicep, and then when he needs it, he can turn it into whatever shape he needs. He's also like a master, or maybe not master, but expert in Tai Chi. This is also the same guy I'm taking Tai Chi from. So generally speaking, we tend to keep our hands in a C sort of shape, and then like be able to grip onto anything that's coming at us. So if you need to, we're not just parrying by like slapping it with the palm, but we're also often using the C shape to kind of guide. Tend not to grab, because that causes opportunities for somebody else to do something bad to you. Alright, so typically, kind of relaxed here. The butt end of the machete is pointed toward our target, which in this case is you. So we're trying to aim for right about here. And then we use our left arm to counterweight all of this motion, which also then allows us to equally stretch the back muscles. So all of this stuff back here, we don't want to just constantly do this with one arm and then nothing with the other, because that'd build up these muscles on this side and then do absolutely nothing on this side. That's terrible. Don't do that. So our typical stance is something, roughly speaking, like this, where we're just kind of in a like 45-degree angle in the back, straight forward on front, and then again we're using this as a counterweight to the front hand. And that's our number one strike, is just straight out, straight back, straight out, straight back. And typically you want to aim for right about eye level. So that is, for me, right at the camera here. And straight out, straight back. The number two strike is literally just a double strike. Number three is a single strike, followed by an overhead strike, followed by a single strike again. So we do it all at once, and we get something that looks like that. So one, overhead, one. The number four strike does a single strike, and then we drop into an open stance. So this was a closed stance. Mostly because you're offering kind of your side and shoulder to your opponent. I know that here I'm still kind of straight on, but you know, my arm is crossing over my body, so it would be hard for an opponent to come in without having to deal with this arm first. So this is a closed stance, whereas this is an open stance. I now have this area pretty wide open. And if an opponent were to come this way at me, they might be able to avoid my blocking overall, right? Because again, I have this area here is actually open to this angle. So when we come in for an open, we do a single strike and then drop into a defensive posture. And then typically the number four has a whip strike. So this comes forward, and then we use our left hand as a stopper. And it's going to cause the stick to whip across at an even faster rate because I just stopped the momentum of my arm. And if you know anything about actual whips, right, when you stop the motion of the heavy bit, the light bit at the end is the thing that can potentially break the sound barrier. So we hit here, and we also typically will pop this back over into a closed stance. So number four typically goes single to open, whip over, single again. There's a lot of using the whip to change direction, and so becoming unpredictable is like the name of the game. You do not want to be predictable. The number 5 and number 6 I always forget, but but it's something to the effect of we have this thing, the fan block, followed by the I'm getting all of my Korean terms in my head, and this is the wrong martial art. We have the fan block followed by the whip, and then single strike. Right, this actually just starts from here, and then we go over the top to do a fan block, whip through, and then single strike. And yeah, I can't remember the other one is. There's another one that does like we go into an open, and then we come around and whip down, which can be particularly devastating. And then we can come back around, we can do all sorts of stuff. So figuring out combos is another thing that works out pretty nicely. Let's also think just real quick, what else do we do? With single, there was an exercise where we do stuff from closed stance and then stuff from open stance as well. So we did number 1, and then we would whip across to an open stance and then do number 1, and then whip across and then do number 2, and then do number 2, and then do number 3, and then whip across and then do number 3. So this would be a whip strike, come back, overhead, whip strike, and return to close. Or no, whip strike, and then we're back here, whip across, and then go to number 4. Now that's it. This is the interesting one because we're going to an open stance from a closed stance. So we start in closed, do a strike to open, whip back to closed, and then single strike. So from an open stance, we would then be doing a whip strike to closed, a single strike, a single strike to open, and then a whip strike, and then back to closed. So there's a bunch of really cool stuff that we do in Eskrima. It's one of those martial arts that I have heard about multiple times and then just like never actually did anything with. And then when I found out that this guy was offering it, I was like, yeah, absolutely. So we went for almost a year. The other 2 guys that were in the class regularly are now off doing their own martial arts with other groups in like Leeds, Bradford. I don't remember where else, but and then from here we also did our Sticks to Heaven stuff. This typically is something that you can do with a partner, so both of you do this at the same time and they impact here. You flip it back. This one comes up like this. They both impact here. Twist, reverse, they impact here, and then return. And so clack, 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 clack. And you get to do this with a partner, and it's keeps you both on your toes. Once we decided that we were totally going to do sparring, we ended up getting full helmet, which has a metal grill across it, so you could like whack each other quite nicely without having any actual danger. Okay, let's get back to the math. Thank you everybody for humoring me. So yeah, techno fantasy stuff is quite interesting with Titan's Grave, or not Titan's Grave, with Fantasy Age as a whole. I quite enjoy looking over the stuff and like figuring out how to put the pieces together to make the story that I want to make. I'll probably run this story with a brand new group of people at some point, but I don't know if I'm going to have to, come back to Maryland first. Maybe run it for my old friends that I had sort of run this for once before. Okay. Factor loadings for each item are provided in Table 5. Show that each item loaded saliently greater than 0.6, except item 4. If I have a question in math, I know people who would help me. 0.46. Cronbach's measure of reliability was strong. Alpha equals 0.95. And the model accounted for 66% of the total variance. A equals 0.95, not alpha, but you know. Items with star asterisk were retained for final instrument. Right. I believe math is important to my life. 71%. I will use math when I grow up. 68. If I have a question in math, I feel comfortable asking the teacher. 61%. If I have a question in math, I know people who would help me. This is people, right? This is like other than your teacher. I know people who would help me. And these students, aged 9 to 14, only 46% said yes. I suspect that the younger population practically had nothing. Unless they, you know, have parents in mathematical scientific fields, that sort of stuff. And the older students probably had a little. If others have a question in math, I feel like I can help them. 89%. That is awesome. I like that. So they don't necessarily have people who would help them if they have a question, but they feel like they can help their friends, their peers. That's nice. Other people listen to me when I share ideas. 76%. Nice. I like to figure out math problems. 91%. That's really cool. I think math is interesting. 89%. Right. They wanted to keep at least one item per MWB component. So here, engagement, they selected, I like to figure out math problems, and thought, I think math is interesting is less of an important question for the final. I am good at math, 89.5%. Other people think I'm good at math, 84.6%. I have fun doing math, 91%. I feel happy when I do math, 94%. I think I will always enjoy math, 90%. Now, the numbers do not bear out on that one, unfortunately. It typically ends up being that, especially girls in middle school tend to fall off pretty quickly. Now, this could also be more of an old days thing, and I know it has at least gotten better a little over the past few years, but we always want to keep an eye on, especially the population of young girls coming through middle school, to be like, okay, let's make sure that we get everybody to enjoy math and still think that it's okay and good to do well and be a total nerd if you want to be, because obviously. I will continue to get better at math in the future, 78%. Also interesting that that dropped, or that's one of our, I guess not lower values, but I guess many students just don't even know necessarily. Goal was to create a short scale, which we used the results from the pilot survey to help us decide which items to retain for final instrument. First, we examined the item from each component of MWB that had the highest factor loading and ensured that it aligned with the theoretical description of the associated component, and that it holistically captured the component to the greatest extent possible when compared with other items in that same component. When considering the items in relationships component, we noted a fundamental distinction between the two strongest loading items. One item relates to an individual's feelings about themselves and their ability to contribute to their community. The second item relates to how the individual feels accepted and respected as part of their community. Following deliberation, we decided to include both items for the relationships component to provide a more holistic representation of that component. Right, because they're looking at two fundamentally distinct things. It's pretty cool. This resulted in a total of 7 items for MWB scale. 7 items measure each component of MWB to provide a concise, unidimensional measurement of students' overall well-being in mathematics. Ran another EFA model which included only those 7 items. Model accounted for 71% of total variance, and all 7 items loaded saliently, greater than 0.6. I mean... content validity post-pilot. After reducing the initial items in the 7 item survey, we sent it again to a panel of experts to assess content validity. Recruited 7 experts in mathematics, education, 4 researchers, 2 elementary mathematics teachers, and 1 mathematics coach, 3 experts in science STEM education, 3 researchers, for a total of 10 experts. We explained our objective to create a brief measure of students' overall well-being in mathematics and asked the experts to rate the relevance of each item for students' overall well-being in mathematics using the matrix shown in Table 7. Then we calculated item content validity indices for each item to discern relevance of items. Values above 0.8 indicate appropriate relevance. Values reflected excellent content validity in each of the 7 items, with all items scoring 0.900 or higher. All right then. Right. Items 4 and 6 were reviewed by 9 out of the 10 experts. All other items were reviewed by all 10. So 4 and 6, I am good at math and I will continue to get better at math in the future, were not evaluated by one of the people. I don't know if they just ran out of time or what. Oh no. Yeah. Items 4, 5, and 7. I am good at math, I feel happy when I do math, and I will continue to get better at math in the future. All had ICVI of 1.000. Everybody else was 0.9000. So it seems like there was one person who kind of disagreed with 1, 2, 3, and 6 about the overall relevance, right? Content validity. I think that's what that meant. After piloting and receiving expert judgment, we sent the survey again to a nationally representative sample of 253 students aged 9 through 12 in the USA to assess structural validity and reliability of the final scale. We assessed the structural validity and reliability of the instrument using confirmatory factor analysis and Chromebox alpha. Yeah, it is alpha. CFA is often used to measure construct validity and is recommended for use in scale validation. We ran CFA for 7-item scale on the new sample of students using Lavon package in RStudio. Then evaluated the model using both absolute and incremental fit indices according to Brown 2015. Values for comparative fit index and Tucker-Lewis index should be larger than 0.95. Root mean square error approximations should be less than 0.06, and standardized root mean square residuals should be less than 0.08. Chromebox alpha is a measure of internal consistency, which describes the degree to which items on the survey behave in the same way. Fair. As the Chromebox alpha increases, proportion of the score that is due to error will decrease. Optimal Chromebox alpha scale reliability is above 0.7. with values very close to 1, suggesting possible redundancy in the scale. Okay. We calculated Cronbach's alpha using the psych package in R. Mardia's test of multivariate normality. Skew 1595, kurtosis 27.5, p less than 0.001, and Shapiro-Wilks test for univariate normality, 0.75 to 0.89, p less than 0.001, showed statistical significance, indicating that items in our survey were not normally distributed. Okay. Considering the 5-point Likert type scale and non-normality of our data, we included a correction for ordinal data and used diagonally weighted least squares estimation. The results of the single factor CFA established structural validity of the 7-item scale based on model fit indices, including CFI 0.999, TLI 0.998, RMC 0.046, and SURMR 0.033. Each standardized factor loading was significant to the 0.001 level and loaded saliently, with loadings ranged from 0.77 to 0.88. Wow. I don't typically get results like this. Okay. I believe math is important to my life. 79%. I like to figure out math problems. 83.7%. If others have a question, I feel like I can help them. 83.7%. I am good at math. 87.5%. I feel happy when I do math. 87%. I will continue to get better at math in the future. 77%. See, that's the lowest one. Other people listen to me when I share ideas about math. 79.5. Okay. Model revealed reliability of alpha equals 0.92, indicating excellent internal consistency. Corrected item total correlation indicates that all items were correlated with the overall scale. Spearman inter-item correlation for the 7 items was 0.57, which is slightly above the recommended range for scale development, which suggests some possible redundancy in the survey. However, the individual item correlations range from 0.49 to 0.68, which indicates a considerable amount of uniqueness across the 7 items and reduces the concern about redundancy. Corrected item total correlations. 0.73, 0.80, 0.79, 0.85, 0.84, 0.79, 0.76. Right. Table 11 shows descriptive statistics for final sample of students, 253. As shown, students rated item 1, meaning, and item 6, perseverance, relatively high, and item 5, positive emotions, relatively low. One more time. M. Oh, mean standard deviation. Yeah, okay. Right. 4.1 with a standard deviation of 0.86. Okay. Okay. Again, challenging to do with only 250 people, and I mean that's still statistically significant, like, sample. But I really feel like this study, like, really went hard with the method and made sure that they had, like, done as much groundwork as possible beforehand to ensure that there was, like, nobody could ask any questions that would be obvious, like, here's a problem with your survey. Like, every single thing that I have thought of just randomly as we go through this has been, like, blocked. You know, you can't question that because I did this to make sure that that wasn't going to cause any problems. I did this to make sure that that bias would be eliminated. So Good job. To test for measure invariance, we used a series of model comparisons using increasing constraints. First, we fit baseline model to check for configural invariance, followed by constraining the factor loadings, and finally constraining the intercepts and factor loadings. Assumption of invariance holds if baseline model has a good fit and significant loadings across groups. The constrained models do not significantly worsen the fit. Change in CFI less than 0.01 between constrained models has been used to indicate invariance. Table 12 shows results for measurement invariance across different age ranges and genders. Right, here's our chi-squared model with degrees of freedom. No, I don't think I've used a chi-squared since undergrad. So if anybody has any particular insight about using chi-squared models and what we're supposed to be using them for, feel free to statistical hypothesis tests used in the analysis of contingency tables with the sample sizes are large. Determined to examine whether two categorical variables are independent in influencing the test statistic. Tested is valid when the test statistic is chi-squared distributed under null hypothesis. Okay. Always right skewed, but becomes more symmetric as degrees of freedom increases. Used for goodness of fit tests, independence tests, and variance tests. Mean equals degrees of freedom. Variance equals 2 times degrees of freedom. Okay. If chi-square is less than the critical value, you fail to reject the null hypothesis. If chi-square is greater than the critical value, you reject the null hypothesis. So, with degrees of freedom at 14, okay, chi-squared is greater than critical value, so probably reject the null hypothesis. Original model. I don't know where we're... Oh, freaking A. I don't know what we're comparing here, is the issue, if I just look at original model. Because it's not really comparing. That's the problem. Boo. You do a terrible job, Obi. Boo. Yeah, unfortunately I can't read the chi-squared stuff. Boo. Okay. MWB scale displayed strong psychometric properties, indicating that this is an appropriate scale to measure subjective well-being in mathematics for students aged 9 to 14 in the U.S. Here we describe the implications of the study for future research and practice. Current instrumentation of MWB has relied on long-form surveys with multiple scales. The scale presented in the study provides an alternative, measures students' overall well-being on a short scale. We've more or less talked about this. Exploring and understanding participants' perceptions of facial emoji Likert scales in online surveys. A qualitative study. Okay. Aldersmail and Zhang. Another valuable component of our research that contributes to much needed validity work on instruments for children in mathematics education. No, another valuable component of our research is that it contributes to much needed validity work on instruments for children in mathematics education. Children are a difficult to reach group, and the study provides a validated instrument for children in critical age ranges 9 to 14 in the US. Not only do we provide a validated instrument, but our scale contained unique design features such as emoji responses. They are considered good practice for child-friendly surveys, but these response types are lacking in current instrumentation. There is a need to develop more suitable instruments for children. Notwithstanding the benefits, we also acknowledge certain limitations in our using our scale to measure children's MWB. First, all items focus on positive aspects of MWB. We see this as a strength for measuring a psychological construct related to mathematics. However, this unitary focus could inadvertently ignore certain negative aspects that are equally important for a child's overall mathematical well-being. Second, as with any self-assessment survey, our scale has inherent limitations regarding the validity of responses, particularly given the age group of our intended participants. Conducting multiple rounds of psychometric analysis may help mitigate this concern. Third, while we view the brevity of this survey as a strength for practicality, it may not fully measure the complexity of mathematical well-being. The separate components of MWB may not be fully captured within the MWB scale due to the nature of short scales. Other surveys, such as Hill's survey, provide a more reliable measure of separate components of MWB. Researchers should be aware of these trade-offs when deciding the most appropriate instrument for their research. To conclude, MWB is encouraging, but constructs and validity work are needed. MWB scale is appropriate for researchers who seek a summary measure of mathematical well-being. However, the other instruments should be used if separate component scores across the 7 components are needed. It will be important for MWB scale to be validated across different populations of students according to geographic location and age. Research has shown that students' experiences of MWB differ across national contexts. Due to subtle cultural differences, students will interpret survey items differently depending on cultural context. Therefore, the MWB scale may be needed to be adapted for use in other countries. Similarly, other MWB surveys that have been administered in Australasia may need to be modified for use in other regions. Interesting question. Are these people available on Blue Sky? In the future, it may be desirable for MWB researchers to develop different types of instruments to measure MWB in classroom settings. Most mathematical well-being research has followed survey design, which is particularly valuable during the early stages of a new construct. However, as MWB has emerged more rapidly recently, it may be prudent for researchers to develop observation protocols or qualitative indicators of MWB that allow researchers to explore MWB from a qualitative lens. There are endless possibilities for research, since it is still in the early stages, making it an exciting terrain for researchers. Fair enough. Scale may be used as long as proper credit is given. Permission is not needed to use the scale. This article should be used as the citation for the scale, and this note gives evidence that permission is used, or permission to use is granted. So if anyone here is interested in using this scale, you are now welcome to do so as long as you use the link that was posted in chat. I will do it again. Oh, that's nice. Yeah. So I also went on to, what I was doing there was I went onto Facebook and I know, gross. Pinged my two colleagues from the community college who are on Facebook and friends of mine, and said, you might want to check this out. It seems like it could be promising for use. I know, yes, it is age 9 to 14, but you could work with whoever. So I quickly just mentioned that to them. Ty Campbell. Nope. There is a lot of gospel singing. Okay, and Sindura Kularjan. Hashtag not sponsored by AB Rum. Highly recommended. Drink water. Stay hydrated and all that. Yep, not getting anything on her either. Sandra Miles. Man. Nothing. Ty Campbell is available via email. USU, right? Yeah. PubMed, Google Scholar, nice. Okay. We'll put that off to the side for now. Digital Literacy Matters, Analysis of PISA Data 2022 on how literacy, confidence, and resource use shape mathematical achievement. By Josie Singh Chapai and Josie. Alright, this is just the abstract because I'm not paying. Digital literacy is often seen as the key driver of effective learning with digital tools, yet there is a lack of research on how access to these tools influences the development of digital literacy. This research aims to examine the direct and indirect effects of access to and use of digital resources, digital literacy, and confidence in mathematics tasks on students' mathematics achievement. Researchers used 2022 PISA dataset, which includes a sample of 613,744 students, to conduct the analysis. Stepwise multiple linear regression and structural equation modeling were employed to calculate the results. Findings indicate that access to digital resources, digital literacy, and confidence in mathematics tasks significantly and positively influence mathematics achievement. Not really surprising, I guess, but hey, gotta make sure you know. Why, hello everybody, good evening and welcome. My name is Obi-Wan Pez, this is N-Simplex Pachinko, and hello to Ian Stuckey and all of your friends coming on over there. Good morning. Yes, it is just past midnight, so yeah, no worries. If anyone is somehow not following Ian Stuckey yet, please go and rectify that situation. They are one of our friends who also does mathematics research and currently is working on a paper, ? Might be done by now. I don't know. We'll see. Findings indicate... Yep, in contrast, the use of digital resources in mathematics shows a negative effect. Use of digital resources in mathematics learning shows a negative effect on mathematics achievement. That is interesting. I would like to also know what kind of digital resources were assessed. Moreover, the analysis revealed no mediating role for digital literacy, use of digital resources, or confidence in math tasks in the relationship between access to digital resources and achievement scores. However, both confidence in math tasks and the use of digital resources positively mediate the relationship between digital literacy and mathematics achievement. Results further show that frequent use of digital tools such as simulations, virtual labs, coding platforms, along with digital literacy skills like sharing content online, managing websites or blogs, and algorithmic thinking serve as negative predictors of mathematics achievement. Interesting. Huh. Hey, Mathfun, how's it going? Matt. Managed to remember. Obi. Yep, nah, no worries. I just go by my handle because I'm one of those old people who insists that you know, my digital profile remain anonymous. Not that it even matters, because my name is so ridiculously common that there is a Facebook group dedicated to people with my name. The only thing that's different between all of us is whether we use a nickname and our middle initial. Alright, ads are about to start. It's going to be about 3 minutes, and we'll... I don't know, I might grab a snack. We had our drink here. This is our AB rum, hashtag not sponsored. Very interesting stuff. It's surprisingly drinkable and not, like, sugary, so I don't like it. Alright, see you all in 3 minutes. Alright, thanks everybody for sticking around. Yeah, we got some nice pineapple. Also hashtag not sponsored. I will say, right, at some point, I was like, oh, we've got some extra coconut milk. I'll like put the coconut milk on top of my ice cream, which works out pretty well because it like hardens somewhat and then it's like a little bit crispy to it, and you know, it's a healthier alternative to like chocolate sauce or something like that. So recently I was like, whoa, we've got pineapple and coconut milk, and that way I could make like a pina colada sort of thing that went on my ice cream, and I tried that. Do not recommend. 0 out of 10. Terrible idea. Don't do it. The acids in the pineapple, which are fairly strong, and like if you take an actual pineapple and like just bite it, like not, you know, bite the fruit, out of the pineapple, it will burn your tongue because the acids are fairly strong and fairly concentrated. And yeah, you really need to like rinse pineapple with water before you serve it. Otherwise you get like chemical burns on your tongue. It's great. Ask me how I know. So then, because the acids are pretty strong, they denatured all the proteins in the coconut milk, and they denatured all of the proteins in the milk inside of the ice cream. So I had nice, like, curdly ice cream. It was great. Just don't recommend. I should have realized what was going to happen. Frozen banana slices, nice. Fluffy, good evening and welcome. Low effort banana ice cream, true. I think they also did something like that at the Dole Plantation when we went to Hawaii, where like there were frozen bananas, there was like pineapple everywhere, obviously. Yeah, no proteins left natured, very true. Okay, so I don't know if anybody took a look at this while I was gone, but two things stood out for me, right? Findings indicate that access to digital resources, digital literacy, and confidence in mathematics significantly and positively influence mathematics achievement. Zero surprise for that. However, the next sentence threw me, only a little bit, I guess. In contrast, the use of digital resources in mathematics learning shows a negative effect. Okay, so I can understand if you're using digital resources, especially AI or something like that. Well, like that includes, or probably includes, I don't have access to this because, like it said, you'd have to pay £30 a month for this. Yeah, if my stream ever gets above £30 a month, maybe we will pay for some article, some sort of journal access, but no. Almost never. I also have problems with for-profit journals, but we could talk about that some other day. No. This is a separate. That's the psychometric evaluation of mathematical well-being scale for children 9 to 14. This one is Digital Literacy Matters, analysis of PISA data 2022. On how literacy, confidence, and resource use shape mathematic achievement. So yeah. This one down here really threw me. The results further show that frequent use of digital tools such as simulations, virtual labs, and coding platforms, along with digital literacy skills like sharing content online, managing websites or blogs, and algorithmic thinking, serve as negative predictors of mathematics achievement. So, like, that's interesting. Access to digital resources improves, significantly, and positively influences mathematics achievement. However, the frequent use of digital tools and also the use of digital resources shows a negative effect. So like the fact that your class has them means that you have a positive influence in mathematics achievement, but actually using them with any regularity shows a negative effect in achievement. I mean, maybe it could be that students are just focusing so much on doing other stuff. And if we had a login, right, then we'd be able to break this out more and be able to figure out what exactly... You're really not going to give me anything on the side? Alright, there we go. Abstract references, acknowledgement, author information, ethics. Yeah. Boo. Digital literacy skills like algorithmic thinking is going to be a negative predictor of mathematics achievement as well. So, I'm trying to think like how that would work. Is it that students are focused on trying to do the work rather than like learn the material? Because that also makes sense. We talked about that. Smells like confound. Nice. So we talked about that a little bit in Liliadol, building thinking classrooms. If anybody is interested in that type of stuff, you know, mathematics education, the math content channel on YouTube is at InSimplexPachinko6542. I swear. And we did a series on Peter Liliadol's Building Thinking Classrooms. I have not uploaded all of them yet, I don't believe. I think I'm... Good question. I did. Ooh, it's complete. Yep. So Building Thinking Classrooms as a playlist is now complete, if anybody's interested in that. You can watch all 15 episodes or whatever it is, 16 I think. We ended up talking with Zach from E to the 2i Pi, and did a little bit of, right at the end, we did a little bit of like, how does one create some of the activities that we might use in this, the rich tasks. So, yeah, we talked a little bit, I think, in terms of... Ooh, gross. Fat fingered that one. I think we talked a little bit about algorithmic thinking, or at least I think that's what we were kind of talking about in Building Thinking Classrooms. Specifically that students who are more concerned with, like, getting the math done would end up doing more poorly due to the fact that you are trying to shift the entire culture of the classroom toward learning the material as a holistic idea, like as a holistic ideal, rather than necessarily just here's how to do the following skill. So I think that that's probably what this is edging up against, without understanding what, you know, the full text is. So that's kind of interesting. Let's see. Recent submissions to the arXiv. Nothing since Friday. Yeah. This is history and overview of mathematics. Dick and Liz ASCII's visit to USSR in 1987 and how discrete ASCII scheme also originated in Russia. Diamond Open Access, the AMR experiment. Ooh, Alex Kantorovich. Alex has his own YouTube channel and often shows up on a bunch of other people's YouTube channels talking about cool research in mathematics. So I usually recommend going to check his stuff out. I don't know what the AMR experiment is, but I mean, honestly, this is probably going to go way over my head. Diamond Open Access journals charge neither readers nor authors. Despite long-standing support for this ideal within mathematics, relatively few journals exist. This article documents the Association for Mathematical Research's experience building and operating Diamond Open Access journals. Awesome. You know what? Let's stick with this one. We're gonna read it. Focusing on infrastructure, cost, and editorial practices that make the model viable. Aims to clarify whether earlier reform efforts have been difficult to replicate and how a lightweight institutional framework can lower barrier to adoption. I was actually just thinking about this because we were talking about Springer's model of, pay $30 a month to have access to, granted, to have access to everything you could possibly want. But I have a massive problem with the for-profit journals, especially those that are owned by not the people who do the research. If there was, for instance, the Association for Mathematical Research, AMR, and they wanted to charge a premium for it, and it's run by mathematicians and people who do math research, cool, that's okay. But, the issue that I have is that several of the major journals that are out there are owned by hedge fund managers, essentially, and they're basically just taking whatever profits come out of this and then putting it into their own bank account. So, yeah. There was one particular person that I was thinking of because they were highlighted as the owner of the following journals, and they listed all of the journals, and I was like, man, this guy. This research is actually important. And what do? They put a, they charge money for it. They make people sign the non-compete contracts, so they can't put their stuff on arXiv or wherever for everybody to read it. Then a bunch of people or a bunch of institutions are basically forced to have access to this particular journal. So it's just ridiculous. Oh, and then there's also one-off that you could just pay $5 or something to get access to an article. And I honestly, I would be surprised if it's that low. Whereas most people, most researchers are perfectly happy if you just email them. They will often just give you a copy of their paper. So, do that. Email people and say, hey, can I have a copy of your particular paper because I'm interested? And like I said, oftentimes they'll do it. I've been thinking about journal publishing for some time. Like Money Mathematicians, I signed Tim Gower's 2012 call to boycott Elsevier. Yep, I think that was the one, maybe. Years later, however, a little had changed. In July 2017, Gowers wrote a blog post celebrating the editorial board of Journal of Algebraic Combinatorics was flipping, resigning en masse from Springer, to start a new Diamond Open Access journal, Algebraic Combinatorics, under the same editorial leadership. Yet even as he celebrated, Gowers admitted, even though it's very exciting, one journal is flipping. I must also admit to disappointment at how low our strike rate has been so far. One of the most serious attempts to reform mathematical publishing over several decades was Rob Kirby's founding of Mathematical Sciences Publishers. In spring 2004, MSP became the home of Geometry and Topology, high-quality journal created in 1986, explicitly in response to the rising subscription prices. MSP's journals are non-profit and fairly priced, dramatically less expensive than those of commercial publishers. That said, they remain subscription-based and therefore not fully open. My own experience brought the issue into sharper focus. When I was editor-in-chief of Experimental Mathematics, I once tried to access a paper from my own journal and asked to pay $40. Oh no! Around the same time, I had published a paper in Gower's Diamond Open Access Journal, Discrete Analysis, and saw that model worked beautifully. No fees to the final straw, yep. No fees to authors, no fees to readers, and a fully functional journal. So, simple question, if this works so well, why hasn't it spread? The answer I came to eventually realize is not lack of goodwill or conviction, it is a coordination problem. I mean, most problems that exist in the real world, let's be honest, the problem is a lack of commitment for one person to just say, I need to organize this and do the work on a regular daily basis to make the thing happen. Whether it be that the person just doesn't know how to do it or they're not willing to do it. In many cases, it's I can't give up my X amount of free time to make this happen, or I'm not willing to leave my job to make this happen. Gee, I don't need to make $1 billion off of this. Yeah. 100%. Like, I'm about this close to just saying F it, leaving my career on the table, and going into politics to just, like, try and gather other people and rip stuff up and say, no, this is the way it's supposed to be. And let's fix everything to make it how it is supposed to be. And by supposed to be, I mean using the modern ideas of, like, friggin', oh my god. Oh. Voting. Whee! Grr. Comparison of electoral systems. G. There you go. Guys, what am I thinking of? Choice.
like Skybree, she got a body, ayy. And she been calling me daddy lately. Want me to put her in Cartier's, and the deserve it. Put in work for the money, she earn it. Give me top every night, lip service. Now I gotta block these, she worth it. I'm out in Abu Dhabi with a bad look like Skybree, ooh. Right beside me, in the phantom off that body, yeah. Abu Dhabi with a bad look like Skybree, ooh. Right beside me, in the phantom off that body, yeah. Abu Dhabi with a bad look like Skybree, ooh. Right beside me, in the phantom off that body, yeah. Abu Dhabi with a bad look like Skybree, ooh. Right beside me, in the phantom off that body, yeah. Shorty a dancer with a
This is sad. I have not heard like the rank choice. Jesus. How long did that take me to look up? That is ridiculous. Okay. You know, not that that is the ideal system necessarily, but the fact that we need to like start looking at the data and consult experts and talk with everybody about why things are going to work the way that they work and how we can fix things and how we can check things and make sure that we've got good data analysis in terms of how to run the country. So yeah, I'm about that close to just quitting all of teaching and being like, no, I need to run for office. This is ridiculous. Okay. Yeah, be the next Andrew Garfield or whatever. That seems like a bad idea. Alright. Creating a real journal from scratch, even one that exists only online, requires solving many small but non-trivial problems. DOIs, ISSNs, editorial management systems, hosting, indexing, archiving, long-term continuity. Each component is manageable in isolation, but assembling them all without an existing template is daunting enough to deter most editorial boards from trying. In the fall of 2021, a fledgling association for mathematical research contacted me. Its founders were interested in whether the technologies mathematicians had grown accustomed to during the pandemic might change how mathematics is practiced and communicated. It's provided a golden opportunity to attack the problem I've been thinking about for so long. Over the next year, I interviewed about 100 mathematicians around the world to understand whether this was a problem people genuinely wanted solved and what it would take to solve it. And result was AMR's first journal, JAMR, and more importantly, the development of a replicable process. After 3 years of operation, JAMR is now indexed by Scopus and reviewed by MathSciNet, reflecting its status as a fully established research journal. With this process in place, a group of mathematicians can now come to the AMR with a proposal. We can provide a turnkey diamond open access journal, as we have already done for 5 further journals. Nice. Article explains what we have learned and what we have built. The hope is that others will join these efforts, but even for those who prefer to build independently, everything here is documented so that they can do so. Is there really a problem? Open access versus diamond open access. Open access means that readers do not pay. The question is, who does? Under the dominant gold open access model, costs are shifted to authors through article processing charges, typically ranging from $2,000 to well over $10,000 per article at major publishers. Oh. Costs are paid from grants, institutional funds, or library transformative agreements. The same strained budgets that previously struggled under subscription pricing. Besides this model's potential for incentives other than scientific standards, it also excludes large segments of research community. Mathematicians focus 6 pages. This is good. I saw that it was 6 pages earlier. Mathematicians at teaching-focused institutions, independent researchers, early career faculty between grants, and many researchers outside North America and Western Europe would be excluded. A $3,000 article processing charge that is routine at R1 institution can be prohibitive elsewhere. Diamond Open Access takes a different approach. No fees to readers, no fees to authors. When paired with minimal infrastructure, the service work mathematicians already perform, it is the only model that is genuinely open to everyone. During one of my 100 conversations, a colleague asked earnestly, "But how will you convince libraries to subscribe to your new journals?" To which I replied, "No, don't you get it? The jig is up." The question revealed how deeply the old model has shaped our thinking. Under Diamond Open Access, there are no subscriptions. The libraries are not the customer because there is no customer. The work is just available. What about arXiv? arXiv is indispensable for dissemination and has dramatically improved access to mathematical research, but it does not make paywalled journals benign because the arXiv does not, on its own, replace the functions that journals serve. Not all papers are posted there, and even when they are, the versions that mathematicians rely on may differ from final refereed versions. Precise citations to theorem or question numbers can become unreliable, and correlations to published journal work may go unnoticed. No. That's Mikhail Kontorovich, not Alex. Precise citations to theorem or equation numbers can become unreliable, and corrections to published work may go unnoticed. Most importantly, arXiv provides no organized peer review. Journals are not merely dissemination platforms, but mechanisms by which the community collectively vouches for correctness and quality. arXiv is a preprint server, not a validation system. Highlights of prior reform efforts. Mathematicians have been discussing the economics of publishing since the 1990s, at least. In October 2000, notices of the AMS, Alan Jackson, listed more than a dozen articles from the preceding 5 years addressing pricing, access, and reform. The Cost of Knowledge Declaration in 2012 labeled the situation as unsustainable and unacceptable. The diagnosis is not new. The community has not only talked, but here is a sampling of concrete efforts that deserve mention. Centre Mersenne, hosted by Université Grenoble-Alpes and supported by CNRS, publishes 14 Diamond Open Access journals in mathematics, including algebraic combinatorics. It is a serious and successful operation supported by substantial government funding. The Episciences platform, also publicly funded in France, supports overlay journals that conduct peer review on papers hosted on the arXiv, or HAL. I do not know what HAL is. This is an elegant model and one that works well in practice. It's worth noting that the cost structures of preprint servers and journals are fundamentally different. arXiv's operating costs reflect the scale at which it functions, handling an enormous volume of submissions and downloads. Journal publishing even hundreds of papers per year, by contrast, can host all of these PDF files at essentially negligible cost. Math OA, founded in 2016, advocates for and helps fund journal flips, in which editorial boards leave commercial publishers to start fair open access alternatives. These efforts have had real successes, but each flip requires significant organizational and financial effort. Yes. In some subfields, coordinated action has been possible. The Combinatorics Consortium, and by the way, if you intend to flip your journal in this day and age, it's going to be a lot harder in the United States. Just saying. Combinatoric Consortium emerged when several editorial boards resigned from Springer and Elsevier journals to create Diamond open access platforms, or replacements. This works well in that community, but it relies on particular cultural and structural features that do not generalize easily. Finally, publishers such as MSP and European Mathematical Society Press have adopted Subscribe to Open, converting journals to open access once subscription revenue meets a threshold. This avoids article processing, trying to, for instance, flip your journal to turn it from turning it from subscription model to completely diamond open access, funded by governmental research or funded by governmental grants. Given how much science is being gutted at the moment. Right. Subscribe to Open, converting journals to open access once subscription revenue meets a threshold. This avoids article processing charges and preserves quality, but still depends on continued library subscriptions or potentially individuals, but let's be honest, it's not going to be that much. If these subscriptions falter, access reverts to being closed. These are all valuable contributions, but they tend to rely on substantial institutional funding, be confined to specific subfields, or depend on the same subscription budgets that created the problem in the first place. Central obstacle is not disagreement about goals, but the absence of a replicable institutional framework that makes action easy for ordinary editorial boards. So what is a journal really? At its core, a journal consists of an editorial board of prominent researchers and a commitment to rigorous peer review. Reputation, trust, and value, it's a nice pop, derived from the judgment of editors and the quality of papers they select. Everything else, hosting, DOI, assignment, copy editing, arXiv, is infrastructure. Much of the traditional publishing apparatus was designed for the print era, and today these functions can be provided at a fraction of the cost. Indexing and recognition follow from sustained quality and serious operation over time. They are consequences, not prerequisites. Cost-time trade-off. It is possible to run a journal for essentially $0, host it on a university website, manage submissions by email. I mean, this is more or less how we did it at the community college. Track papers by spreadsheet. This does not eliminate costs, it merely shifts them. In this model, the price is paid in the time of the editors, who must perform large amounts of administrative and clerical work that would otherwise be handled by a proper editorial management system. So ours was run through like the STEM honors budget, and all of us as faculty members had to do 80 hours of something over the course of the year in order to like count as benefiting the college. So we went through and made sure that like you log your hours when you're doing editorial stuff, and like the president who originally signed off on this was like, absolutely 100%, you are definitely going to count this. So, log your hours and then put it on your form at the end of the year to say, I spent X amount of time doing the following things. And like, you can 100% use this as your 80 hours, or as some of your 80 hours. Obviously, they like to see a bit of diversity in the activities that you do. So they want to make sure that you're doing, not just not just the research journal, but also make sure that you're, doing cross connection with other departments and cool stuff like that. do some well, I guess our CEUs and our the CEUs and professional development type stuff all counted separately. So like that was its own thing. The 80 hours was like service to the college. So if you went and as a part of STEM honors, your STEM honors group volunteered at something and you managed their volunteering, then you get hours for that. We showed up at the 5K fun run and like handed out water, right? That's like 2 hours. Cool. Over the course of the whole year, it added up, so it was nice. And then working on the research journal counted for a ridiculous amount. So they were pretty much like, yeah, okay, carte blanche. The president when I left was a little less amenable to literally anything. She started pulling some crap that a number of people were not very happy about, especially with the political climate between 2016 and 2020, and from 2024 on. And just recently signed the faculty forum signed a statement of no confidence in the president. I was like, whoa. Oh, not faculty forum. It was the union, because we created a union like as I was leaving. So the union signed signed a statement of no confidence. I was like, whoa. Apparently it got a little intense after I left. At the other extreme, professionally managed journals with dedicated staff can cost upward of $100,000 per year or more, minimizing the time burden on editors but requiring significant institutional backing. Yeah. AMR aims for a sweet spot. Editors' time is treated as most precious resource, and modest financial investment is used to eliminate administrative overhead, while many traditional publishing costs are simply cut. The $3,000 per year stack. Our current infrastructure costs approximately $3,000 per journal per year. Consists of 3 components. Edit flow from MSP is widely regarded by experienced editors and referees as providing a substantially better editorial workflow than other available systems. Editors can see the state of the entire journal at a glance, track refereeing requests and decisions, and manage submissions efficiently without devoting significant time to administrative bookkeeping. Nice. Open Journal Systems from Public Knowledge Project provides a stable professional web presence for published journals, and Crossref registers article metadata and assigns persistent DOIs, while ISSNs are obtained through Library of Congress. While it still exists. Together, these tools replace a large amount of manual coordination and save vast amounts of time while satisfying the technical requirements, persistent identifiers, stable hosting, and reliable editorial workflows of a professional journal operation. Typesetting and format. At this cost level, journals are fully online. There is no print edition, and professional typesetting of the kind offered by large publishers is not feasible. Instead, editors perform light copy editing with assistance from AI tools for spelling and clarity, after which authors are given direct access to LaTeX proofs, typically via collaborative tools such as Overleaf to finalize the presentation. We used Overleaf. Finalize the presentation themselves within the journal's style guidelines. This is not a degradation of quality, and in practice is often an improvement. With the exception of a few publishers, notably MSP, which employs PhD mathematicians as outstanding typesetters at commensurate expense. Yeah. Professional production workflows frequently introduce new errors at each stage, requiring repeated rounds of correction. As many of us have had the infuriating experience of working tirelessly to replace images exactly where we want them to be, getting page breaks in just the right place, and so on, only to receive galleys that completely disregard and nullify all of our efforts. Or if you didn't upload it to a PDF, it doesn't respect it. It's just like, whoop. By contrast, our approach allows mathematicians to control exactly how their work appears while still ensuring a uniform and professional presentation across the journal. Editorial and refereeing work as academic service. Vast majority of editorial and refereeing work in mathematics is performed by research mathematicians at universities who view this as part of their professional service to the community. Diamond Open Access does not increase this burden. It simply avoids paying publishers for the privilege of donating that work. The only thing worse than not paying for editorial judgment is paying for it. When revenue depends on acceptances, editorial independence is compromised. Service-based editorial and refereeing work, for all its limitations, helps keep decision-making insulated from financial pressure. Editorial volume and backlogs. Traditional journals often impose artificial scarcity. Fixed page budgets, strict volume limits, and informal quotas that constrain how many papers can or must be published in a year. These constraints are largely inherited from print-era economics or from prestige models that treat scarcity itself as a signal of quality. The result is familiar: long backlogs, extended delays, rejections driven by considerations other than the merit of the work itself. Under the online-only model, these constraints disappear. There is no need to limit the number of pages published or to manufacture scarcity by arbitrarily rejecting papers that meet the journal's quality standard. Nor will there ever be any pressure to accept work that does not. Our journals publish on a regular schedule, with each issue containing as many or as few papers as were accepted during the relevant period. As a consequence, AMR journals have neither backlogs nor quotas. Papers are evaluated individually and accepted or rejected on the basis of quality alone, without regard to how many papers have already been accepted in a given area or time frame. Let me tell you, if I was a department chair, I would push hard. Ben, that's you. I would push hard to be like, okay, look, as part of your service to the college, you can also donate, I don't know, a maximum of, say, 2 to 5 hours a week on refereeing journals, refereeing articles for a Diamond Open Access journal, and just be like, we want to encourage this kind of behavior, so let's donate between 2 and 5 hours. If there are no papers, then there are no papers. You just do something else with your time. But you can have up to 5 hours a week doing, refereeing for the community. And then our name, the college's name, gets put on that, because now you are one of the referees listed at the beginning. right? And our college is listed on that refereeing page. And especially people like, I worked with a number of people who very much were involved in the mathematics community in terms of like publishing high-end research papers. Whether currently, you know, at the time of my knowing them, or when they were students and then like it was never done again. So I would certainly want them to open up and be like, hey, you know, being involved in the community is part of your job. Let's go. I, on the other hand, have zero experience in anything publishing. So, like, you know, my particular refereeing would be worth basically nothing. Alex might argue otherwise, but nonetheless. Right. The goal is not rapid publication at the expense of rigor, but the elimination of delays and distortions that arise when editorial decisions are constrained by page budgets or prestige signaling rather than scientific judgment. Yeah. I mean, like, if they're short somebody who, you know, knows some education stuff, sure, why not? I could probably go into that. But, like, I look at some of these papers on, you know, mathematics research, and I'm just like, don't friggin' know what anybody's talking about. So. Yeah, I definitely do not have that experience. So my opinions are essentially void. All right. A natural concern is sustainability. What happens if an editor-in-chief burns out or an editorial board disperses? This is where an overarching organization plays a crucial role. The AMR monitors its journals, maintains infrastructure, and plans for succession. Yeah, that's probably a good one. The probability that both a journal and its parent organization fail simultaneously is much smaller than either one failing alone. Lightweight does not mean fragile. The AMR is not asking authors, readers, or libraries to fund these journals. Because operating costs are so low, the organization has already raised sufficient funds to support its journals for many years. And is in the process of building an endowment fund, right, for securing them in perpetuity. At $3,000 per year per journal, long-term sustainability is not a serious obstacle. The American Mathematical Society, AMS, has served the mathematical community admirably for over a century and continues to do so. It has also launched a Diamond Open Access Journal, Communications of the AMS, which is a welcome and laudable development. However, CAMS required a substantial initial donation and operates at a significantly higher cost structure than the model described here. Given funding pressures, it seems unlikely that this model can be replicated broadly across the discipline or potentially sustained, nor, as discussed above, is it a necessary level of resource expenditure to move Diamond Open Access forward. More broadly, established organizations accumulate staff, workflows, and institutional commitments that make certain kinds of change difficult regardless of leadership quality. A journal that costs $3,000 per year to run looks very different to an organization built around legacy production pipelines than to one starting from scratch. This is not a criticism, it is a common feature of paradigm shifts. New models are often easier to build outside existing structures. Yes. The AMR exists not to compete with established societies, but because certain experiments are easier to conduct independently. If successful, these experiments may eventually inform larger organizations' future efforts. To date, the AMR has supported Diamond Open Access journals in 3 distinct ways. First, we have launched new journals from the ground up, including JAMR, Journal of Open Mathematical Problems. I assume that one is it. Whee! Volume 1, Number 1. Full issue in PDF. Oh. Oh no. Boop. This is going to end up being something we view probably quite often. Let's go back to here. Jump. Nice. Papers to discuss. Yes, absolutely. Save. Awesome. Thank you, Alex Kantorovich. Applied in computational topology and geometry, mathematics of data, learning, and intelligence. Nice. Second, we have taken over the publication of existing journals previously issued by commercial publishers. In particular, Arnold Mathematical Journal, formerly published by Springer, is now published Diamond Open Access by AMR while remaining under the ownership of the Institute for Mathematical Sciences at Stony Brook University. Nice. Third, we have facilitated a journal flip when the editorial board of Experimental Mathematics resigned en masse and founded the Diamond Open Access Journal of Experimental Mathematics. I love it when they do that. Oh, that is brilliant. Similar to, but legally distinct from. The AMR itself is an experiment. Whether it succeeds depends on the mathematical community. Will mathematicians submit strong work to these journals? Will hiring committees, grant panels, and prize committees come to regard publications in these journals as comparably prestigious? These outcomes are not within our control. We make no claims and offer no prescriptions for how publications should be weighed. Read the papers, decide whether the work is good. That is ultimately the only standard any journal can meet. Commercial publishers will, of course, continue to exist, and many of the most esteemed journals in mathematics will remain in their portfolios for the foreseeable future. The AMR's response to this is deliberately modest. Do nothing. Rather than attempting to displace existing journals or accelerate change through pressure, the aim is simply to continue building new Diamond Open Access journals and run them well. If these journals attract strong editorial boards, publish high-quality work, and are taken seriously by the community, then over time they can earn the same standing as their subscription-based counterparts. In this view, time is the primary lever. Institutional norms in mathematics change slowly, but they do change, and sustained success is ultimately more persuasive than any single reform effort. For decades, mathematicians have said that they want their work to be freely available. The infrastructure now exists to make this possible at minimal cost. The remaining question is not technical or financial, but collective, whether we are willing to give such institutions the time and social capital they need to succeed. Awesome. Conflicts of interest. The author is the managing editor of JAMR. Yes. That was pretty clear up above, but nonetheless, we'll give Alex the benefit of the doubt on that one. That's great. Nope. Oh, that's too bad. Anyway. Alex Kontorovich. Okay, cool. Yep, I am probably going to jump out right about now and find the next person to raid out to. I know Dr. Gold is on. I do have to get it in the next 3 minutes, so let's go, Obi. Woo! Not that one. That one. Okay, let's see who we got. Dr. Gold. Yep, Dr. Gold's the only one doing educational stuff at the moment. So, I mean, you know, the only one that I am following currently. So we'll hop over and see Dr. Gold. He is doing problem solving, so if anybody has any particular problems, definitely drop him a follow, drop him a like, and we already popped his stuff in chat, but obviously we're headed over there, so thank you everybody for coming, and I hope that you are going to have an awesome rest of your day, rest of your night, rest of your tomorrow, and we will be back tomorrow at roughly speaking 9:30 UTC, and we're going to start our new backlog game, Blueprints. So I hope everybody has a nice day. I hope to see you tomorrow, and we'll check out how Blueprints is doing. So good luck, everybody. My name is Obi-Wan Pez. This is N Simplex Pachinko. Have a good night.